Gisele of Canada.
How do you do, ladies and gentlemen? Mesdames et messieurs. J'attendrai le jour et la nuit. J'attendrai toujours ton retour.
Gisele of Canada is presented as a public service feature of this station. Most of us here in these United States like to know what our neighbors are doing, how they think, how they work, and how they play. In the series of programs which begins today, you'll hear such outstanding stars as Bing Crosby, Clark Gable, Ginger Rogers, Fred Astaire, Van Johnson, Loretta Young, James Stewart, Larry Parks, Claudette Colbert, Cecil B. DeMille, Lionel Barrymore, Ezio Pinza, and that outstanding news commentator, Ed Murrow. All these folks will engage with me in a little light banter about our neighbor to the north. But more about this later on. Here is that lovely, talented young Canadian entertainer who sings and plays some of your favorite numbers. Gisele, I imagine you're a little nervous in the presence of our distinguished guest today, aren't you?
Well, who wouldn't be? Being on the same program as Bing Crosby.
Well, you know, Gisele, Bing is one of the warmest and friendliest guys I ever ran into. And he has that wonderful knack of making other performers feel quite at ease. And you're no exception.
Well, that being the case, I'd like to sing If I Had a Talking Picture of You. If I had a talking picture of you, I would draw it every time I felt blue. I would sit there in the gloom of my lonely little room and applaud each time you whispered, I love you, on the screen the moment you came in. We would talk the whole thing over, we two. I would give 10 shows a day and a midnight matinee if I had a talking picture of you. I would sit there in the gloom of my lonely little room and applaud each time you whispered, I love you, on the screen the moment you came in view. We would talk the whole thing over, we two. I would give 10 shows a day and a midnight matinee if I had a talking picture of you.
See? It was quite easy, wasn't it, Gisele? Now, just to show your versatility, Bing wants to try you out in a little French song. What's it to be?
It's called La Chanson de la Rue, which translated into English means the song of the street, or the street song.
Well, let's hear it.
La chanson de la rue est tout à fait notre histoire. La chanson de la rue, chacun s'est reconnu. Les couplets, les refrains se répandent toujours. Car on y parle uniquement d'amour.
Today I have the honor to introduce a man who has probably tramped more miles over Canadian golf courses, climbed more Canadian mountains, and incidentally acquired more Canadian friends than any citizen south of the border. His name, of course, is Bing Crosby. And up in the mountains around Jasper, Alberta, he's known as the man who gets his own goat.
Hey, Rupert, looks to me like you've been peeking into the Saturday Evening Post a while back, huh?
Read every word of that article you wrote, Bing. Quite a hunting trip that must have been.
Yes, it was. Very nice. Which part of the saga of the great Crosby safari appealed most to you, Rupert?
Why, naturally, Bing, I enjoyed most reading about that scorched derriere you got for yourself.
Well, what would you have done? Here was this beautiful big Rocky Mountain goat that I'd just shot, and he goes sliding down the side of a mountain.
And you go sliding right after him, smoking like a hot toboggan.
I was a hot toboggan, but I got him.
That you did.
Yeah, loads of fun up there in them mountains, Rupert. I took home something more than a set of horns.
I'll bet you did. I'll bet you did. A nice set of black and blue ones.
Well, yes, some of those, but the best souvenir of all was the one that I always bring back.
And what's that?
It's an opinion I formed quite a while ago about Canadians. It gets better every time I go to Canada. It's a mighty comfortable set of neighbors we got there, Rupert.
No argument about that, Bing.
Well, I didn't expect one, but it's important to us. Not just because it makes life cozier, but because we need Canadians in our business. Oh, I don't mean just because the Canadians have things we need in our industry and such, although they've got plenty of those things, too, but because we need their goodwill and their help. A really big job that faces both of us.
I can guess what you mean, Bing.
Just about the biggest and the most important job there is today, I guess. It's nothing less than to take a more or less permanent place at the head of the parade for a more reasonable world.
We could use one, all right.
We've got to have one, Rupert. History has been pointing its wrinkled old finger at us for quite a while. As the people who... Well, we've got to show the way.
But we've been up to bat quite a few times already, Bing.
What do you mean, Marshall Plan and military assistance and things like that? Yes, I guess we have. And the Canadians have been matching us clout for clout in the same kind of effort. But I believe we'll have to stop thinking that so many cuts the ball will do the trick, even though these are very useful. We've got to make up our mind that it's the long pull, long, steady pull that's needed.
Face up to the realization that the world we used to know is gone forever.
I'm afraid so. That's what makes me keen about this Canadian-American combination. We're the two countries who came out of this struggle bigger and stronger than ever before. We've shown the world how to get along by talking over our troubles instead of trading punches. We swap our best ideas without any customs duty. A lot of our best people do.
And the time is coming when we'll have to swap more goods on a little easier basis, too.
That's what it looks like, according to my viewpoint. But, for instance, we've put a lot of money and effort into the Marshall Plan aid, but that's not going to do much good to these countries in the long run unless these countries can exchange goods with us here on the North American continent.
Someone has been telling me that in 1949, Canada was importing from the Marshall Plan countries at the rate of $31 per person, while the United States only imported goods valued at $5.40 a person.
Well, we've got to find some way to do better than that before long. I don't know just how. I'm not very well versed in these things. All I know is that it's certainly important.
Right. Somehow trade with the rest of the world has got to become a going concern. Going our way.
And Betty Fitzgerald himself couldn't have wrapped it up more neatly, me lad.
Hey, Bing, someone just whispered to me that you have an additional interest in Canada.
Yes, I think I have. My grandparents, that's my mother's mother and father, were born on the River Miramichi up in Ontario, Canada, so I'm sort of a transplanted...
Yeah, well, that being the case, I think you ought to be appointed ambassador at large for Canada.
I accept the assignment with great pleasure, Rupert.
You know, Gisele, I thought I'd never get through that interview with Bing. I had a beautiful case of California laryngitis caused by a thing that the comedians make so much fun of, you know, smog. Well, enough of that. Here's a little tune which ought to appeal to you, Bing. It's called 10 Little Men. Any comments, Gisele?
No comment. It speaks for itself. I'm nutty as a fruitcake. My mind's a perfect blank. I'm ready for the nut house, and I've got to decide. 'Cause ever since we parted, I'm a sorry sight. Woe is me, you ought to see what I see each night. But if I was wearing hobnail shoes, tramping across my bed, and 10 little men with feathers beating me on the head, elephants flying by in twos, changing from green to red, a pretty bell. Alligators singing, Jeannie with a light brown hair. Oh, what a way to find me. You'll never know how I'm dressed. So stand with men with feathers, feeding me on the head. Seems to me that I've heard Bing Crosby's recording of Just Because It's Small, and it has always been one of my favorites. While I can't sing it, I'll certainly sing it. Just because it's small by a waterfall at the closing of the day, with someone to wait by a garden gate, who will charm your troubles away. Sweet humble, I know, humble darling, if there's love to welcome you. Just a thought is small by a waterfall, where dreams come true.
Well, that would seem to wind us up for the day, folks. But we'll be back next week at the same time when our guest will be Claudette Colbert.
My warm thanks to you, Bing Crosby, for being our guest today. And I know you'll be listening next week. Meantime, au revoir. J'attendrai le jour et la nuit. J'attendrai toujours ton retour.
This is Rupert Lucas saying au revoir until next week.